Also this evening, a mother murdered and her body found in a trash can. It was breaking news. We were bringing you this time yesterday.
The suspect, her adopted teenage son. News 4's Abigail Franklin is following today's developments, and she's joining us live from Logan County with the new information. Abigail, what are you learning?
Picture this. You adopt a teenage boy, give him a home, a family, a chance at a better life. But he starts getting into trouble, serious trouble. So you decide to teach him a lesson, a hard lesson, one he won't forget. But instead of learning, he starts making threats. Tells his sibling he's going to kill you. And then one day, he waits for you with a hammer. When you walk by, he strikes, kills you, puts your body in a trash can, and rolls it to the curb like you're nothing. And when deputies finally find you on January 28th, 2026, you're stuffed in that trash can in your own driveway. This is what happened to Spring Weems in Logan County, Oklahoma, a 49-year-old mother, killed by her 16-year-old adopted son. But the question everyone's asking is why? What was that lesson she was trying to teach? What pushed this teenager to murder? And could this have been prevented? Watch to find out what really happened. Welcome to Behind Dark Crime. This is where we tell the stories they wanted forgotten. Domestic violence, relationship murders, cases that went cold while families still wait for answers. Raw truth, no filter. If you're about that truth, subscribe and lock in with us. Now let's get into today's case. January 28th, 2026, Logan County, Oklahoma. It's a Wednesday morning, a quiet residential neighborhood near Bryant and Simmons Road. The kind of place where people know their neighbors, where kids play in the streets, where families feel safe. But on this morning, that sense of safety is about to be shattered. Oklahoma has seen its share of family violence in recent years, cases where parents harm children, cases where children harm parents, domestic situations that escalate beyond anyone's control. In 2025 alone, the state dealt with multiple high-profile cases of family murders, situations where what should have been safe homes became crime scenes. And on January 28, 2026, Logan County would add another case to that list. It started with a welfare check. Someone in the community, people who knew Spring Weems, hadn't seen her in a while. She wasn't responding, she wasn't around. And they were concerned enough to call the Logan County Sheriff's Office. Deputies responded. They went to the home on Bryant and Simmons Road. When they arrived, they found two teenage boys there. The deputies talked to them, asked questions. "Where's your mom? When did you last see her? Is everything okay?" The boys gave answers, seemed calm. Nothing immediately raised red flags. So the deputies finished their welfare check and left. But 30 minutes later, those same deputies would be called back. And what they found would turn this welfare check into a homicide investigation. Spring Weems was 49 years old. And to understand this case, you need to understand who she was. Because this wasn't just any victim. This was a woman who meant something to a lot of people. A close friend of Spring's posted a tribute on Facebook after her death, and it paints a picture of someone who was larger than life. The friend wrote about meeting Spring decades ago, about how Spring was her sister's other half, not just a friend, but like a sister in ways that went beyond blood. They were inseparable. Spring had this magnetism. That's how people described her. You couldn't pull away from her energy. She was the hub of the community. If you were in Spring's life, you felt seen. You felt supported. You felt loved. She made people feel celebrated constantly. She baked birthday cakes for all the kids. She organized family trips to cabins, tents, lake houses. She was the person who showed up for everything: weddings, deaths, family tragedies, the big moments and the small ones. One friend said Spring delivered her second baby, and Spring babysat that friend's children all the time. Even when the friend would leave the country on vacation, she trusted Spring with her kids. Spring hosted a wedding in her backyard for one of her closest friends, made it beautiful. made it special, because that's what Spring did. Her laugh was contagious. Her jokes were hilarious. She plated everyone's food before she sat down to eat herself. She loved big. Spring was also a mother. She had biological children, but she'd also chosen to adopt, to open her home to kids who needed a family, to give them a chance at stability and love.
Oh my God! Oh my God!
One of those adopted children was a teenage boy named Jordan Weems. He was 16 years old, a freshman in high school, and Jordan was the one who would kill her. Something had been going wrong in the Weems household recently. In the time leading up to January 28th, 2026, Jordan and his brother had gotten into trouble, serious trouble. They'd been sneaking out of the house at night, and when law enforcement caught them, they ran. They ran from the police. That's not just teenage rebellion. That's a level of defiance that gets you in real legal trouble. Running from law enforcement is a crime, and Spring knew it. So she decided to teach them a lesson, a hard lesson. She made Jordan and his brother write apology letters to the police, made them acknowledge what they'd done wrong, made them take responsibility. But she didn't stop there. Spring took Jordan's clothes, locked them away so he couldn't access them. She took his bedding too. Everything that made his room comfortable, everything that was his, she locked it up. And then she made him wear an orange jumpsuit, like a prisoner. She changed what he ate too. No more regular meals. Now it was ham and beans, chicken and beans, prison food, the kind of meals inmates eat. Spring was trying to show Jordan what his life could become, what prison would be like, what he was heading toward if he kept sneaking out, kept running from police, kept making bad choices. She was trying to scare him straight. But Jordan didn't see it as a lesson. He saw it as humiliation, as punishment that went too far, as his mother treating him like a criminal in his own home, and he started making threats. According to court documents, Jordan told one of his siblings that he was going to kill their mother, not in a vague way, not in a "I'm so mad" kind of way. He said he was going to kill her, and nobody stopped him. Nobody reported it. Nobody intervened in a way that prevented what was about to happen. Tuesday, January 27th, 2026, one day before Spring's body would be found. This is likely when it happened, when Jordan made his decision, when he stopped threatening and started acting. Jordan went to the garage, he got a hammer, and then he waited. He positioned himself in a hallway, somewhere Spring would have to walk past, and he waited for her to come by. When she did, he struck. He hit her in the head with that hammer. Spring Weems, the woman who loved big, who made everyone feel seen, who showed up for every important moment in people's lives, was killed in her own home by her adopted son. Jordan didn't stop there. He didn't call for help. He didn't panic. He didn't try to undo what he'd done. He got a trash can, a regular household trash can, and he put his mother's body inside it. Then he rolled that trash can to the curb, like it was trash day, like his mother was garbage to be collected. And for at least a day, maybe longer, Spring Weems's body sat in that trash can at the end of her driveway while Jordan went about his life. Wednesday, January 28th, 2026, one of Jordan's siblings started noticing that Spring wasn't around, hadn't seen her, couldn't find her, asked Jordan where their mom was. Jordan had an answer ready. He said Spring had left a note, said she was helping someone with a new baby, that she'd be back. But the sibling didn't believe it. Something felt off. Something didn't add up. So the sibling called their father. Spring and her ex shared custody of the kids, and he needed to know their mother was missing. The father called the Logan County Sheriff's Office, asked them to do a welfare check, make sure Spring was okay. Deputies responded, went to the house, found Jordan and his brother there, talked to them, asked about Spring, got answers that seemed reasonable enough. The deputies left. But 30 minutes later, everything changed. Jordan and his brother were outside, in the street, and they were fighting. Not arguing, fighting. Physical altercation in the middle of the street. A neighbor saw it happening. She didn't know what it was about, but she knew she needed to break it up. So she ran over, got between them, tried to calm things down, and that's when one of the boys said something that stopped her cold. He said, "He just killed my mom." The neighbor looked at him, thought maybe she'd misheard. Maybe it was teenage drama. Maybe he was exaggerating. But then he said it again, pointed. "She's in the trash can." The neighbor called 911, told them what the boy had said, told them to send deputies back immediately. And when deputies arrived and opened that trash can at the curb, they found exactly what the boy had said. Spring Weems, 49 years old, dead. Her body stuffed inside a trash can like she was nothing. The scene was immediately secured. The Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation was called in. This wasn't just a death, this was a homicide, and it was brutal. An OSBI spokesperson would later say, "This is an incredibly sad story. You're talking about a woman who lost her life just a brutal way." Deputies detained both boys, started questioning them, started piecing together what had happened. And Jordan, the 16-year-old, adopted son, admitted it. He told investigators he had killed Spring. He told them he got a hammer from the garage. He told them he waited in the hallway. He told them he hit her in the head. He told them he put her body in the trash can. He told them he rolled it to the curb. He admitted everything. The undersheriff described the moment deputies arrived. He said, "When we arrived, we quickly detained the two individuals that were actively fighting. And then there were statements made that one of the parties involved made a statement that said, 'Mom's in the trash can.'"
When we arrived, we quickly detained the two individuals that were actively fighting. And then there were statements made that one of the parties involved made a statement that said, "Mom's in the trash can."
Just like that. Mom's in the trash can. Like it was a matter of fact. Like a woman's life could be reduced to that. And OSBI would later say, "We're still looking into the exact motive, why this occurred." But the pieces were already coming together. The sneaking out, the running from police, the punishment, the threats, the hammer, the trash can. This wasn't random. This wasn't a moment of rage that came out of nowhere. This had been building. And Spring Weems paid for it with her life. Once Jordan admitted to killing his mother, the investigation moved quickly. But investigators still had work to do. They needed to understand the full picture. They needed to piece together not just what happened, but why it happened. The Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation took the lead. This wasn't just a Logan County case anymore. This was a juvenile who'd committed murder. This was an adopted child who'd killed his adoptive mother. This was complex. OSBI agents interviewed Jordan multiple times. They talked to his siblings. They talked to neighbors. They talked to anyone who might have information about what happened in that house leading up to January 28th, 2026. And the picture that emerged was disturbing. Jordan had been making verbal threats to kill his mother, not just once, multiple times. He told at least one sibling that he was going to do it, that he was going to kill Spring. Those threats weren't taken seriously enough, or maybe they were dismissed as teenage anger. As words said in the heat of the moment that didn't mean anything, but they meant something, because Jordan followed through. Investigators also learned about the punishment, about the orange jumpsuit, about the prison food, about the locked away clothes and bedding. Spring had been trying to teach Jordan a lesson, trying to show him what his future would look like if he kept making bad choices. But that lesson had backfired in the worst possible way. Court documents detail everything Jordan told investigators. He admitted he got a hammer from the garage. He admitted he waited in the hallway. He admitted he hit Spring in the head. He admitted he put her body in the trash can. He admitted he rolled it to the curb. There was no question about who did this. Jordan confessed to everything, but investigators were still trying to understand the exact motive. Yes, there was the punishment. Yes, there were the threats. But what specifically made Jordan decide that Tuesday was the day he was going to kill his mother? OSBI said publicly, "We're still looking into the exact motive, why this occurred."
We're still looking into the exact motive, why this occurred.
Because even with all the information they had, there were still gaps. There were still questions. Neighbors had turned over camera footage to investigators, surveillance from their homes that might have captured something relevant, might have shown when Jordan rolled that trash can to the curb, might have shown activity at the house in the days leading up to the murder. All of that evidence was being reviewed, being analyzed, being added to the case file, and the physical evidence was clear. Spring's injuries were consistent with being struck in the head with a hammer. The trash can had been examined. The hammer had been recovered. Everything Jordan said happened matched the physical evidence. This was an open and shut case in terms of who did it. Jordan Weems was arrested at the scene on January 28, 2026. He was 16 years old, a freshman in high school, and he was being charged with first-degree murder. But here's the thing. In Oklahoma, when a juvenile commits certain serious crimes, they can be charged as an adult. And murder is one of those crimes. So Jordan wasn't going to juvenile court, he was going to adult court. He would be tried as an adult, and if convicted, he would face adult penalties. The charges were severe. First-degree murder, that's the most serious murder charge you can face. It means premeditated killing. It means planning. It means intent. And if Jordan is convicted of first-degree murder as an adult in Oklahoma, the penalty is mandatory. Life in prison without the possibility of parole. No chance of getting out, no second chances, no rehabilitation programs that end with release, just life behind bars. Jordan was initially booked into the Canadian County Juvenile Facility. OSBI said that was the best fit for him at the time. He's still a minor, still 16 years old. So even though he's being charged as an adult, he's being held in a juvenile facility until he turns 18 or until the court determines otherwise. A public defender was assigned to his case, someone to represent him, to make sure his rights are protected, to build a defense if there is one to build. Jordan's next court appearance was scheduled for February 24th, 2026. That's when he'd be formally arraigned, when the charges would be read, when he'd enter a plea. But moving on, the legal process in a case like this is long. There will be hearings, motions, discovery, maybe a trial, maybe a plea deal. It could take months or even years before this case is fully resolved. And through all of it, Jordan will be sitting in custody, waiting, knowing that if he's convicted, he'll never see the outside of a prison again. The neighborhood where Spring lived was in shock. People couldn't believe what had happened, couldn't process that a teenage boy had killed his mother and put her body in a trash can. One neighbor who spoke to reporters said it was truly a tragedy, that Spring didn't deserve to die like this, that it was a close-knit community where something like this had never happened before. The neighbor who broke up the fight between the two boys, the one who heard, "He just killed my mom," told reporters she saw police there earlier that day for the welfare check. She said she had no idea what was about to unfold, that 30 minutes after deputies left, she was calling 911 about a murder. People in the community were left with questions. How did this happen? How did nobody know? How did a 16-year-old plan and execute a murder and hide his mother's body without anyone noticing for a full day? And then there were the bigger questions. Questions about adoption, about discipline, about warning signs. Spring's friends were devastated. The woman who'd posted that Facebook tribute about Spring being the hub of their community, about her loving big, about her making everyone feel seen, now had to process that Spring had been murdered by her own child. The friend wrote about how Spring had been present for every major life event, and now the people who loved Spring had to be present for this, for her funeral, for grieving a loss that felt senseless and preventable. Because let's be real, there were warning signs. Jordan had been making threats. He'd told at least one sibling he was going to kill Spring, and nothing was done to stop it. Maybe the sibling didn't believe him. Maybe they thought he was just angry. Maybe they didn't want to get him in more trouble. We don't know. But those threats were real, and now Spring is dead. This case forces us to ask some difficult questions, questions that don't have easy answers. First, was Spring's punishment too harsh, making a bad teenager wear a prison jumpsuit, making them eat prison food, taking away their clothes and bedding, locking those things away so they can't access them? That's extreme. That's humiliating. That's treating a child like a criminal in their own home. Spring's intention was to scare Jordan straight, to show him what prison would be like, to make him understand the consequences of his actions. But did that punishment cross a line? Did it humiliate Jordan to the point where he couldn't handle it? Did it push him toward violence instead of away from it? Some people might say yes, that Spring went too far, that there are better ways to discipline a teenager than making them feel like a prisoner. Other people might say no, that Jordan had been sneaking out and running from police, that he needed to understand how serious that was, that Spring was trying to prevent him from ending up in actual prison. But the result is the same either way. Spring is dead. Jordan is facing life in prison. And the punishment that was supposed to teach a lesson ended up destroying 2 lives. Second, could this have been prevented? Jordan made threats. He told a sibling he was going to kill Spring. That's a red flag. That's not normal teenage anger. That's a direct threat of violence. If that sibling had told someone, if they'd reported it to Spring or to their father or to a counselor or to authorities, would Spring still be alive? We can't know for sure, but it's possible that intervention could have made a difference, that Jordan could have been removed from the home, that he could have gotten mental health help, that he could have been separated from Spring until things calmed down. But that didn't happen, and now it's too late. Third, what does this say about adoption and trauma? Jordan was an adopted child. We don't know his background before he was adopted. We don't know what trauma he might have experienced. We don't know what issues he was dealing with, but we do know that adopted children, especially those who come from difficult backgrounds, can struggle with attachment, with trust, with authority, with feeling like they belong. And when discipline comes into play, when punishment happens, those struggles can intensify. Did Jordan's adoption history play a role in how he responded to Spring's punishment? Did he feel like he was being rejected again? Like he was being treated as less than? We don't have those answers, but they're worth considering. Spring Weems was 49 years old when she died. She was a mother, a friend, the hub of her community. She loved big. She showed up for people. She made birthday cakes and hosted weddings and babysat kids and delivered babies and was there for deaths and tragedies and celebrations. She was by all accounts a force of nature, someone you couldn't pull away from, someone who made you feel seen and loved and supported. And she chose to adopt, to open her home to kids who needed families, to give them a chance at stability and love. That's who Spring was. That's what she did with her life. But she's gone now, killed by one of the children she chose to love, stuffed in a trash can and left at the curb like garbage. Her friend wrote, "She was a force. If you were fortunate to have Spring in your life at some point, I know you are feeling this loss to your core." And that's true. The people who knew Spring, who loved Spring, who were part of her community, they're grieving. They're trying to make sense of something that doesn't make sense. Spring's biological children lost their mother. Her friends lost the hub of their community. And the world lost someone who made it a little bit brighter. But hey, Spring's death also leaves us with lessons. Hard lessons. Lessons about discipline and boundaries, lessons about taking threats seriously, lessons about intervention and mental health and what happens when warning signs are ignored. Jordan Weems is 16 years old, and if he's convicted of first-degree murder, he'll spend the rest of his life in prison. He'll never have a career, never have a family, never have freedom. He'll live exactly the life Spring was trying to scare him away from, except worse. Because there's no coming back from life without parole. And Spring won't be there to see any of it, won't be there to advocate for him or support him or try to help him, because he killed her. Make it make sense. A mother tries to teach her son a lesson about prison, and he responds by committing a crime that guarantees he'll spend his life there. This case is a tragedy in every sense of the word. There are no winners here, no justice that brings Spring back, no punishment for Jordan that undoes what he did. Spring Weems is gone. A woman who loved big, who showed up for people, who made the world better by being in it. Jordan Weems is facing life in prison, a 16-year-old who made a choice that destroyed 2 lives in an instant. And the people left behind, Spring's biological children, her friends, her community, they have to live with this. They have to process it. They have to figure out how to move forward when someone they loved was taken in such a brutal way. The case raises questions we need to ask about how we discipline kids, about how we respond to threats, about how we support adopted children and the families who take them in. Because if we don't ask those questions, if we don't learn from this tragedy, then Spring's death means nothing. And Jordan's life behind bars changes nothing. So what do we take away from this? We take away that threats of violence should always be taken seriously. Always. Even from teenagers. Even when you think they're just angry or exaggerating. We take away that extreme punishment can backfire. That humiliation and fear don't always lead to changed behavior. That sometimes they lead to rage. We take away that intervention matters. That when someone is struggling, when warning signs are there, we have to act. We have to get help. We have to do something before it's too late, and we take away that life is fragile, that the people we love can be taken from us in an instant, that we should tell them we love them, that we should show up for them the way Spring showed up for everyone in her life. Rest in peace, Spring Weems. You deserved so much better than this. If this case made you think, if it raised questions you can't shake, hit that like button. Subscribe to Behind Dark Crime if you haven't already, because we're not done telling these stories. These cases need to be heard. These victims need to be remembered. And maybe, just maybe, somebody watching will see the warning signs in their own life and do something before it's too late. Drop a comment and let me know your thoughts. Was Spring's punishment too harsh? Should those threats have been taken more seriously? Could this have been prevented? I'll catch you in the next one. Stay safe out there.